You wake up with your chest already tight. Before you've even opened your eyes, before you've consciously thought about your day, the anxiety is there, waiting. It follows you into the shower, sits with you at breakfast, rides with you to work, whispers in the background of every conversation, every decision, every moment you're trying to be present. You've thought about therapy. Maybe you've even tried it. But the cost, the time, the vulnerability required, it feels like another mountain to climb when you're already exhausted. You've thought about medication, but the side effects, the dependency, the fear of needing a pill just to feel normal, it doesn't feel like the answer either. So you've been managing, white knuckling your way through, using caffeine to push through the fatigue, scrolling to numb the overwhelm, staying busy so you don't have to feel the weight of it all. But you're tired, tired of living this way, tired of feeling like anxiety is running your life, and you're looking for another option, something you can do yourself, something that doesn't require a prescription or a therapist office. If that's where you are, what I'm about to share might be exactly what you need to hear. Because according to Dr. Gabor Maté, anxiety is not something that happens to you randomly. It's not a chemical imbalance that appeared out of nowhere. It's a signal, a response, a nervous system adaptation. And while therapy and medication can absolutely be helpful, and I'm not here to tell you to avoid them, there are also powerful, evidence-based practices you can begin right now on your own that address anxiety at its root, not by managing symptoms, but by changing the conditions that create them. Before we go further, let me be clear about what this video is and isn't. This is not medical advice. If you're struggling with severe anxiety, if you're having panic attacks, if you're in crisis, please reach out to a professional. There's no shame in that. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. But if you're living with the kind of chronic low-level anxiety that makes every day feel harder than it should, the kind that doesn't meet the threshold for clinical intervention but still diminishes your quality of life, then what I'm about to share can make a profound difference. Because most of what perpetuates anxiety isn't happening in a therapist's office or a pharmacy. It's happening in how you live, how you relate to your body, how you structure your days, how you respond to stress. And those things, you have more control over than you think. Practice 1. Reconnect with your body through movement, not exercise, but release. Most people think of exercise as something you do for fitness, for weight loss, for health. But movement, when done with the intention of regulating a nervous system, is something entirely different. According to Gabor Maté, anxiety lives in the body. It's not just a mental state, it's a physical one. Your muscles are tense, your breath is shallow, your nervous system is activated. And when you're stuck in that state, trying to think your way out doesn't work. Because the activation is somatic, it's in your tissues, your fascia, your autonomic nervous system. So you have to address it somatically, not through forced cardio or punishing workouts, but through movement that helps your body discharge the energy it's been holding. This could be shaking, literally standing in your room and letting your body shake. It feels awkward at first, but it's one of the most primal ways to release stuck activation. It could be dancing, not choreographed, not performed, just moving in whatever way your body wants to move. It could be stretching, long, slow, intentional stretches that let you breathe into the places you've been holding tension. The key is this: you're not moving to burn calories. You're moving to let your nervous system complete the stress responses it's been stuck in. Because anxiety often comes from incomplete cycles. Your body mobilized to fight or flee, but you couldn't. You had to sit still, stay polite, keep it together. And all that mobilized energy is still there, waiting. Movement gives it somewhere to go. Practice 2. Regulate your breathing, but not in the way you think. You've probably heard that deep breathing helps with anxiety, and it does, but most people do it wrong. They take a big inhale, trying to fill their lungs, and then they wonder why they feel more anxious, not less. Here's why. When you're already in an activated state, a big inhale signals to your nervous system that you're preparing for action. It's what you do before you run, before you fight. What actually calms your nervous system is the exhale, specifically a longer exhale than inhale. Try this right now. Breathe in for a count of 4, then breathe out for a count of 6 or 8. Do that 5 times and notice what happens. The long exhale activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for rest and calm. It literally signals to your body that it's safe to stand down. This isn't about doing it once when you're having a panic attack. This is about making it a practice, multiple times a day, especially in moments when you're not anxious. Because you're training your nervous system, you're showing it what regulation feels like, and over time, it starts to remember. Practice 3. Create micro moments of safety throughout your day. Anxiety is, at its core, a state of perceived threat. Your nervous system believes something bad is about to happen, that you're not safe, that you need to stay vigilant. And you can tell yourself 1,000 times that you're safe, but if your body doesn't feel it, the message won't land. So you have to create felt experiences of safety, not big dramatic ones, micro moments, small, repeated signals that your nervous system can register. This could be as simple as placing your hand on your heart and taking 3 slow breaths. That physical touch activates your ventral vagal system, the part of your nervous system associated with safety and connection. It could be wrapping yourself in a blanket. The gentle pressure mimics being held, which is deeply regulating for most nervous systems. It could be looking out a window at nature. Research shows that even brief exposure to natural environments reduces cortisol and activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It could be humming or singing. The vibration stimulates the vagus nerve, which is central to regulating your stress response. These aren't distractions, they're interventions. Each one is a small deposit into your nervous system's sense of safety. And over time, those deposits accumulate. You're not trying to eliminate anxiety in a single moment. You're building a foundation of regulation that makes anxiety less frequent, less intense, less consuming. Practice 4. Address the hidden stressors you've normalized. Most people think anxiety just happens, that it's random, that it's a flaw in their wiring. But Gabor Maté's work shows that anxiety is almost always connected to lifestyle factors we stop noticing because we've normalized them. You're constantly overstimulated, scrolling, multitasking, consuming content, never giving your brain a break. That's not rest. That's continued activation. And your nervous system never gets the chance to down-regulate. You're not sleeping enough, or you're sleeping poorly, because you're on your phone before bed, because your mind is racing, because you've trained your body that nighttime is for worrying. Sleep deprivation doesn't just make you tired, it dysregulates your entire nervous system and makes you exponentially more vulnerable to anxiety. You're saying yes to things you don't want to do, overcommitting, overfunctioning, trying to be everything to everyone. And every time you override your own boundaries, every time you abandon your limits to keep the peace, you send your nervous system a message, we're not safe to protect ourselves. You're consuming information that keeps you in a state of alarm, doom scrolling, watching the news, engaging in online conflict. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between a real threat and a perceived one. If you're constantly feeding it stories of danger, it will stay activated. So here's the practice. For 1 week, audit your life for nervous system stressors. What are you doing out of obligation that drains you? What media are you consuming that heightens your anxiety? What relationships require you to constantly perform? And then start making small changes. Not everything at once. Just one thing. Say no to one commitment. Turn off notifications. Stop watching the news before bed. You'll be amazed at how much of your anxiety isn't chemical, it's environmental. And when you change the environment, the anxiety begins to shift. Practice 5. Let yourself feel what you've been avoiding. This one is the hardest and the most important. Because for most people, anxiety isn't the primary emotion, it's the secondary one. Underneath the anxiety is something else, something you've been avoiding, something that feels too big, too dangerous, too overwhelming to let yourself feel. Maybe it's grief over what you lost, over what you never had, over the years you spent trying to be someone you're not. Maybe it's anger at the people who hurt you, at the systems that failed you, at yourself for staying in situations that harmed you. Maybe it's loneliness, the bone deep ache of not being truly seen, truly known, truly met. Or maybe it's fear, not the generalized anxiety you live with daily, but the specific, primal fear of being abandoned, rejected, or alone. Anxiety is what happens when those feelings are too threatening to consciously experience. So your nervous system redirects them into a more diffuse, more manageable state. But here's the paradox. The only way to reduce the anxiety is to feel the thing underneath it. Not forever, not all at once, but in small, manageable doses. Give yourself 5 minutes to cry, not about anything specific. Just let the grief move. Give yourself permission to be angry. Write a letter you'll never send. Punch a pillow. Let the rage have a voice. Admit to yourself, out loud if you can, that you're lonely, that you're scared, that you're carrying something heavy. Because when you stop running from the feeling, when you turn toward it instead of away, something shifts. The anxiety loses its grip. Because it's no longer needed. You're finally doing the thing it was protecting you from, feeling. Practice 6. Build a life that doesn't require you to be anxious. This is the deepest work, and it's not something you do in a week or a month. But if you're living with chronic anxiety, at some point you have to ask, what about my life is making my nervous system believe it's not safe? Is it your job? Are you in an environment that's constantly demanding more than you can give, that punishes rest, that treats you as disposable? Is it your relationships? Are you surrounded by people who criticize, who dismiss, who require you to shrink to keep them comfortable? Is it your living situation? Are you in a space that doesn't feel like yours, that doesn't allow you to rest, that keeps you in a state of instability? Is it your internal narrative? Are you constantly criticizing yourself, holding yourself to impossible standards, treating yourself the way you were once treated? Gabor Maté often says that the healing isn't just about managing symptoms, it's about changing the conditions that create them. And that means building a life where your nervous system can rest, where you have boundaries, where you're not constantly performing, where you're allowed to be human, messy, imperfect, limited. That doesn't happen overnight. And it often requires difficult choices. Leaving jobs, ending relationships, disappointing people who've come to expect your self-abandonment. But the alternative is spending the rest of your life managing anxiety instead of actually living. And you deserve more than that. Here's what you need to understand. Anxiety is not a life sentence. It's not who you are. It's a state your nervous system is stuck in. And while therapy and medication can be powerful tools, and I'll never shame anyone for using them, they're not the only tools. You have access right now to practices that can begin to shift your nervous system out of chronic activation. Movement that releases what you've been holding, breathing that signals safety to your body, micro moments that teach your system what regulation feels like, environmental changes that reduce the stressors you've normalized, emotional honesty that lets you feel what you've been avoiding, and over time, the choices that build a life your nervous system doesn't have to protect you from. None of these are quick fixes. None of them will eliminate anxiety instantly, but together, consistently, they create the conditions for your nervous system to heal, not because you're managing it better, but because you're addressing what created it in the first place. And here's what starts to happen when you do this work. The mornings feel lighter. You wake up and the anxiety isn't already waiting for you. The tightness in your chest eases. Not all the time, not perfectly, but more often than before. You have moments, just moments at first, where you feel calm, where your mind isn't racing, where your body isn't braced. And those moments, however brief, show you what's possible. They show you that anxiety isn't permanent, that your nervous system can learn new patterns, that you're not broken beyond repair. You're just living with a system that learned to protect you in a way that's no longer serving you. And now you're teaching it something new. You're teaching it that the world can be safe, that you can protect yourself, that you don't have to stay activated to survive. And your body slowly, carefully begins to believe you. So here's my question for you. Which of these practices feels most doable for you to start with today? Not all of them, just one. Share in the comments, not as a commitment, but as an intention. And if this gave you a different way to think about your anxiety, consider subscribing. There's a lot more where this came from. Because healing anxiety without medication or therapy doesn't mean you're doing it alone. It means you're becoming the primary agent in your own healing. It means you're learning to listen to your body, honor its signals, and create the conditions it needs to feel safe. And that's not just anxiety reduction, that's reclaiming your life. One breath, one boundary, one moment of safety at a time. You don't need permission to start, you just need to begin. Pinned comment. Anxiety isn't a life sentence, and you don't have to wait for therapy or medication to start feeling different. These practices work with your nervous system, not against it. Which one are you going to try first? The breathing, the movement, the micro moments of safety, or something else? I'd love to hear what resonates.